Hello, everybody. I'm Melissa Nielsen, and welcome to month 2, week 3. This week, we're going to be discussing some, more nuts and bolts about where you should be at with your planning. And I also wanted to answer some questions. I've gotten a lot of questions, and then just sort of show you a couple of things. So I'm going to start with the questions. One of the questions that I get often is, okay, I'm coming to Waldorf late, or I've been part of Waldorf, but I'm bringing my kid that's not been part of Waldorf home from public school to homeschool with them with Waldorf. What should I catch up on? Where should we be? Maybe your child is in, maybe they're 11 or 12, and you're trying to figure out what things should you grab from earlier in the curriculum, because there is, of course, this impulse. There's this impulse to do it all. I'm just going to cram all those fairy tales in and those fables and then those Old Testament stories. Don't do that. It's great if you bring those in sort of on the side, maybe assign some reading with regards to those. That's great, but don't feel like you have to, because remember, the Waldorf curriculum content meets the child at their age. So it doesn't matter if they've missed that other stuff. Yes, that stuff is great and nourishing, and if they made a connection with it, they'll have a connection with it for forever. I know a lot of people, ourselves included, we love the fairy tales, even if it's a knockoff Grimm version. I want to see it because I want to see sort of what they've done with it and how they've changed the archetypes around, and did it change the story? And so, and Sam is pretty much into that too. So we're like big Once Upon a Time fans in this house. Even though that show is really kind of crazy, my husband keeps going, when's the gingerbread man going to show up? And so we sort of laugh about that. But anyway, I find that it's great that you keep that sort of alive, but I don't want you to feel like, oh no, I had to cram all this in. So if you've got a child, let's say a child that's 11 going on 12, so they'll be in 6th grade in the fall. Even if they're in 7th grade or 8th grade or something else, according to public school standards, remember that the age goes with the grade. It doesn't matter what they're doing elsewhere. The age goes with the grade. And it also doesn't mean, oh no, my child is behind. Doesn't mean that, because within that content, if you've got a child that's great at writing and they've been in public school, or even if they've not, and they're just great at writing and they want to sort, great, that's amazing. We will meet them where they are academically there. And the same goes with math. Just because you're maybe 5th grade with the rest of the content, you might be 10th grade with math. I've seen that many times. Kids that, even some of my own kids that have some math genius, that's a whiz. So it is okay. What we're looking at is the history and language arts content is what needs to stick with the age. So I'm hoping that you understand that. I get a ton of questions about that. So if you've got a child that's coming late, say they're 11 or 12, maybe they're going to be in 6th grade by the fall, what should you pick up from 3rd, 4th, 5th grade? I would say don't worry about 3rd grade. Especially if you're a Judeo-Christian family, you've already sort of got those stories. But if you're not, and you sort of want to get those as part of a balanced ancient history, ancient cultures, ancient religion, then yes, you could bring those stories in. The Jacob Strait books are lovely for that. There's also some other great children's kind of Bible-ish books that would be okay for that. And there you're just trying to gain a sense of who the Hebrews were and sort of what their plight was. And so you don't have to do a ton of teaching with regards to that. Doing those lessons is lovely and fun. And every year I go, this is my favorite year, even though they're all my favorite. I love them all. Don't feel like you have to rush back into it, because then it feels piecemeal. It doesn't feel full and fluid. Let's stick with what you really need to have going forward. So if you were presenting me with, my child is going to be in 6th grade in the fall, I would say, let's grab the D'Alaire's Norse myth book from the library and have them read it, or one of the other Norse myth books. Not a fictionalized version, but not something that's stylized and modern. I think the Percy Jackson person might do a Norse myth one. Those are great as additional reading for the grades as you're sort of going through. The Greek myths ones are great for while you're sort of doing the Greek myths blocks. But don't pick something like that to learn what the base mythology is. So I know Mary Pope Osborne has one. So I would assign that as summer reading. if you're sort of looking into what should I have prepared. I would assign that as summer reading. I would also look at our grade 4 Human Being in the Animal World block. And just to get, you don't have to do it fully, but just to sort of get the concepts of sort of the polarized views of the head, trunk, limb animals. And so that way they sort of have that foundation as you then also work on botany. So you will have missed botany. If you're coming in 6th grade, you will have missed some botany too. And so for that, the botany block, I would pretty much do the whole block. I wouldn't do a whole block on North Smith. I would just have them read. And you could have them journal and draw as part of their summer work. I wouldn't stress about that. When it comes to, like I said, to the Human Being and Animal block, I would at least get the concept down, go over a few of those animals so that you understand it and that they understand it. Because so we have this how humans and animals are different, and then with the botany we sort of have how the plant is then relying on the earth and that relationship. So they kind of go together a bit. In fact, there are some Steiner resources where he said do botany in 4th and man animal in 5th, and other resource where he says it backwards. And so really the general consensus is 4th grade is the Human Being and Animal block, and 5th grade is the botany block. And it's really a botany introduction. So they will have been doing farming within the curriculum in grade 3, and hopefully, like my children are trying to kill plants right along with me, but we're still trying. I can grow children really well. I'm not good at plants, just not. But you've been doing those sorts of things, and so when you're doing the botany block, it's very much a layering on what you may have already been doing, and sort of encircling and encompassing the foundations then, because you're doing more than as the curriculum goes on. So you want to have those things done. I also think that if you're going into 6th grade and you haven't done any Greek myths, you definitely should do some Greek myths. And so I would, and there's so many resources for those. What I do think you want to do is you want to make sure you have this transition before you start Rome. You want to make sure you have this transition of Greek history and sort of where things are with Alexander the Great and the people that sort of ruled after him, so that you can see how that falls apart as Rome comes on the scene. So you want to make sure, and you could easily do this in probably maybe a 2 to 4 week block in the beginning of the school year if you didn't want to do it in the summer, just so that you have a good understanding. Now there's a book that we recommend all the time called Alexander the Great by Gunther. I think it's on our blog. It's on our blog. If you look under recommended reading, grade 5 plus, it's there. And so I would for sure do some sort of reading so that they have an understanding of what was going on historically before you walk into Rome. Because there is a ton of history that goes on before you even get to the life of the Romans and the Roman Empire and how that's built. So you really want to have a solid understanding of that going into 6th grade. So don't let that stress you out though. A lot of moms have been asking me then, like, how does that change what I'm putting on here? And really, when you did your evaluation in the front of the journal, sort of like where your child is, that's where you're listing, okay, these are the things that we're missing. So that when you're looking then at John Gunther, thank you, Holly. It was there. It just wasn't totally there. John Gunther, Alexander the Great by John Gunther. And Kelly's, is that a PDF of the book? Anyway, I don't know if it is or not. Kelly listed a link here. So as you do that evaluation and then you're coming to this bigger piece, don't let it stress you out. Just go, all right, well, maybe I'm going to have to shorten up. Kelly says, yes, that's a PDF of the book. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. That's an awesome book. You guys should grab it. Shorten up your Christmas. Shorten up I'll come back to that in a minute, Rebecca. Rebecca asked about form drawing. I'll come back to that. Shorten up maybe your spring breaks, just so that you can fit some things in. I tend to, for my own mental health, and I very much so think that everybody should do something along these lines. I take about every 10th day off. So we have a fair amount of blocks or a fair amount of breaks every month. That keeps me from being burned out. It keeps them from being burned out. It gives us days to go, hoo-hoo, we're going to go run and do this today, and have it not be a big mess. So, all right, Rebecca asked, and these are very good questions. What about form drying, and should a child work through it before geometry? Yes. So, absolutely, and I think you should start at the very beginning with form drying and move through. You can move through quickly. I would move through, if you're looking at a child that's almost 12, you can definitely move through several forms a day. But I also warn them, when you're getting fatigued and you feel like you can't do this, or you're getting a headache, or you're, slow down. So, definitely I think you could easily knock out, especially some of the first grade forms, like 5 a day. Hi, Luce. So I think you could definitely, get several in a day. I definitely think you should do it before geometry. So grade 5 geometry is a lot of like the transition between form drawing and then into geometry. So there's like 12 lessons in the geometry curriculum that are for grade 5. You definitely want to make sure you get those in. And the way that I would do that, I wouldn't stress about those things. So you could absolutely add them as a second sort of track to your main lesson day. And while I don't do 2 main lessons in a day, like I haven't been doing that like ever with my kids coming up. If there is something we need to pick up on, then I will build it in somehow. I will generally build it into days that might be slower, where we don't have as many activities out, where we can do something else in the afternoon. But don't let it stress you out. Please remember that nobody gets it all done. Nobody. I don't want you to be stressed out about that. Nobody gets everything done that they set out to do. Everybody has always got something that they've got little extra that at the end of the year that they go, I wish I had. Don't stress about it, especially in these older grades. You want to make sure that you keep the content right for their grade so that they are interested and engaged and it's hitting them exactly where it needs to. And you will see, especially as you're going through 4th, 5th, 6th, that you're like, wow, I can't believe how this is hitting them. I can't believe what great conversations we're having. I can't believe what things that they're leading into. Absolutely, you're going to see those things. You're also going to see things that they really don't care for. So, for instance, and I've told this story several times that my boys loved studying Egypt in 5th grade. They loved it. So when my daughter came along, I was like, woohoo, we're gonna have a good time with this. And I had this prompting when I was doing her planning, not to plan the full amount that I was going to plan for Egypt. And I ignored it, and I was like, I don't know what that's all about. The boys loved it. So I put in there, she hated it. I knew by day 2 that I better get through Egypt as quick as possible because she was not going to stand for it, and I was going to lose her. So keep those things in mind. If you're feeling this pick at the back of your head, like, oh, my child's not really going to enjoy X, Y, and Z. Like, I've had moms tell me my kid hated Norse myths. And that's, I think, fairly common more among girls than boys, because some of these stories will resonate with boys in a way of like they're, and some girls are, yes, definitely right on there. And I've had girls that are and girls that aren't. And that's not sexist. So don't go around saying Melissa's sexist, because I'm not. I'm just saying it how it is. My experience working with thousands of parents over lots of years, this is what I'm seeing. And so moms that have girls sometimes are saying to me, how can I shorten these up? So then I would say, go through and pick key ones, especially ones that there are strong female characters in if your daughter is having a hard time connecting. And there are some good, really good stories in there about that. So it makes you have to be more choosy. It makes you have to really think about them. And hey, that's why we homeschool, right? So that we are picking the material that is appropriate for them. And they're not sitting in a classroom bored or frustrated because they might not be getting exactly what they need or what they want. And so that requires you planning. And it also requires you asking and having a good relationship with Source so that you are meditating about your child. I'm going to say it again. You need to have a good relationship with Source so you can meditate about your child and really listen. Now, I don't care what Source looks like for you. It could look like the giant spaghetti bowl. I don't care. But you are slowing down, you are taking the time, and you are really thinking about your child. That's what this is all about. That's why you're doing this. Remember, you want this education for your children. This is a spiritual education. It's going to require you to put on your spiritual hat and not be afraid of it. And if you're really struggling with that, please PM me. We can talk about, I have resources that can help you with that. It's not about a specific religion. It's not about calling God God. You can call God whatever you want to call him or her or it. That doesn't bother me, whatever is comfortable for you, but make sure that you are agreeing, hey, I have to figure this out because this child of mine has a much deeper connection than me just birthing them. Much deeper. And so you've got to figure out that connection. You have to figure out why you were called to do this. And that takes a lot out of us. But you know what? This is such a huge growth opportunity for moms. Huge, or anybody who's teaching them. Huge growth opportunity. It's sort of like the Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love. It's absolutely like that, but you have to allow yourself to be in that place. So that pretty much covers what, if you're coming late. If you're coming late and you're like in second grade, don't worry about it. Second grade is an extension of first grade. Do not stress about it. You can absolutely pull in some of those fairy tales later. You can do some of them instead in second grade. They definitely need the fables and the saint stories in second grade for sure. And if you're struggling with that content, please go on our website under resources, look at the audios, and listen to some of the audios. We have audios broken out by the grades, so stop stressing. I also have had some moms ask on the Ask Melissa group here, like, what about some of the male-female issues that are in some of the fairy tales? And so I listed a video there where I talk about the feminine aspects of the curriculum. Do not shy away from those things just because they make you prickle. In fact, if it makes you feel prickly, that is your signal to be like, okay, why is that bothering me? And it's not just bothering me because I hate patriarchy. That's not the only reason why it's bothering you. So you need to go a little bit deeper than that. And it's your call then to look at what is behind these fairy tales. What is behind there? What are they learning? All of us have each one of those archetypes in us. Each one of us has the opportunity to do good or to do bad. Each one of us does. So we have to sort of sort out why we're having big feelings about that. And there's tons of big feelings, and I totally get it. So you might want to change, like, I was with a group of moms, and we were sort of, I challenged them. They were working on a story, and they were presenting it to kids, and one of the moms they decided to do Hansel and Gretel. And in the Hansel and Gretel, the original piece, it talks about, don't worry, God will protect us. And the mom was like, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. I said, well, what makes you not uncomfortable? Would it be okay if you said spirit or angels? And she finally was able to say angels. I can get behind that. I can get behind spirits or angels, like protecting children in that way. I said, then that's what you go for. You're still looking for that same feeling archetypally of this big, this something bigger is watching over them, but you can absolutely change some of those words. Just be very careful because you don't want to lose the entire meaning of the story. Like I said, we sort of laugh because we like the Once Upon a Time show, but it has nothing to do with the archetypes in Grimm's fairy tales. And I would definitely not recommend it for a young child. Samuel is almost 11, and he's actually stopped watching it for a while because there's a section where there's Dementor darkness, and he's like, oh no, I can't do that. And I said, all right, that's fine, you come back when you're ready to come back. Now that he's reading Harry Potter, I think he's over the Dementor thing. But you have to know them, and you have to spend time really being careful and listening to your inner voice and your inner guidance so that you can feel guided to them. So now I want to do the next question that I have. I often get well, I'm using your curriculum and I'm just going to follow it to the letter, so why do I need to do this part? You still need to do it. And this is what I would write in those spots, in these spots here, for each of them. So for instance, say you're using our grade 6. So let me open the grade 6 to the block layout. And so then we do a year at a glance in ours so that you can see the whole year at a glance and see what the blocks are. And these are the things right here that you're putting in right here. And yes, I know it's double work, but guess what? When you go from reading to writing, it's huge up here, huge. So then you are really making a relationship with it. And that's what you need because you're studying this, right? You need to be ready to teach it. And so in order for that to happen, you have got to make it go from here on out. So you want to make sure you're reading it. And so you might write And it's okay. So I get these questions too. What if I want to change some things around? Like I'm going to use your curriculum word for word, but I need to change some blocks around. Totally fine most of the time. So the things I wouldn't change around. I wouldn't change the order of how history is taught. If you need to move a history block, great, move a history block. If you prefer to have all the physics blocks together, put them all together. If you prefer to do, things like that, don't stress about those kinds of things. Those for sure you can change around. Just don't put history out of order. That's a big mess. In the lower grades, in first and second grade, first grade you kind of don't want to change blocks around because you really want to get through all of the letters since you're sort of learning to read there. But if you've got a reader already and you want to change some things around, don't worry about it. You can do that. Second grade, you can change anything around. Doesn't matter. Third grade would be kind of hard because you want to make sure that you stick with, especially if you're doing the Jewish holidays, you want to make sure that you get those holidays when they're supposed to be. That gives you opportunity to maybe go to synagogue with somebody or to really understand, because often during those bigger Jewish holidays, there are things around in different cities where you can go and be educated on those Jewish festivals. So don't change those sorts of things around, but definitely change around other things that if you need to move a math block or you need to move, a geography block is a good one to move. You can definitely move those things around. So don't worry about that. And if you've got like a specific question, just pop me a PM. I'm happy to answer it or ask it here on the group. Rebecca says, do we still do all the letter blocks even if the child is already reading on their own? That depends. So that's like one of those great like Waldorf arguments. If you want your child to experience each of the letters that way, then you can. If you have a child that is very proficient, and I mean very proficient, reading on their own, reading chapter books on their own, and you don't want to go through each letter introduction, don't do it then. Focus on the stories and the art because those are the things that really are going to control the will or help them control the will and help you to bring the story content that they need. If they are a little weak and they're struggling and they're right where they should be and because it's first grade, and maybe they know the letters but they aren't reading yet, then I would absolutely go through each of the letters. It will be a bit of review, but going through them then helps reinforce it, and you want to have, you definitely want to have that reinforcement as they're learning to read. Thea asks, what about writing practice? Thea, I hope you're feeling okay. Just sending you a thumbs up. What about writing practice? Writing practice for like if they're a fluent reader but they've not done a lot of writing, so definitely you want to start at the beginning with form drawing, and you want to be going through and doing some writing practice for sure. And you want to be using the content from the stories just like you would any other way. The only thing you're dropping is that letter introduction. And you can shorten some things up, like say, hey, my kid's reading chapter books and we're in first grade and I don't know that I want to do all these stories. And I go, well, then plan yourself a trip to Borneo and go and enjoy yourself and shorten up all your blocks. Have a good time with it. Don't feel stressed about it because that is one of the things for first grade. But definitely you have all these other pieces, and don't forget all the other pieces. You have music. You have hopefully foreign language. You have, all of the art, the handwork, all of those other pieces. So reading is only one element of grade 1. It is not the element. It is only one element. And so don't look at it, the whole thing, and go, well, I don't have to do anything. Yes, you can like shorten things up and, like I said, go have a fun time and have a trip somewhere that you wouldn't normally do during the school year because you were stressing about this. But overall, you still need those other elements in there. You need to make sure that you're knitting. You need to make sure that you're introducing music. You need to make sure you're doing all those things. And the art, I think, is super important. The foundational pieces that come from them really understanding and then feeling mastery over the way the water moves on the paper for wet on wet, the way the crayons come together for block crayon drawing, the way modeling feels. Those are things that happen in first grade and we really want to get them going. And I look at first graders that are modeling and that they've been modeling on a regular basis. The beeswax doesn't feel foreign in their hands. The clay doesn't feel foreign in their hands because they've been doing it. So you want them to be in this place of comfort with those things. So in order to do that, you have to be consistent. So hopefully that answers that question. So again, we're still at this laying out the block place, and we're going to be at this place for one more week. Next week we will start. I will start giving the assignments for month 3. And but we're going to do this from now until next week. And I think next week, actually the 1st is on Wednesday, I think. so that it works out just fine. So if you're struggling with this piece here, I put a picture of mine on the group of just me having started. And so I have Sam is easy and Soraya is easy, and I'm still sort of fiddling with some things with Ellie. I also sort of, because we have a co-op and I want to make sure that I know what our co-op topics are, and I apologize because this is backwards, but like this says co-op topic for the month, so that way in my planning I see it. So anything that can affect, augment, enhance our learning, I'm putting on these pages because I want to make sure that I have it all down. So, like I said, that's this piece. If you are trying to figure out how you're putting first grade down, because it's just letters, it's just the same. Just go to the year at a glance in here. Now, if you're not using our curriculum, let me finish this part first. If you go to the year at a glance, write down exactly what it says. That way, when you're looking at it in the journal, like, oh yeah, these are the letters we're working on this week, and you know ahead of time. I like that you can just carry this around, and it kind of frees you from carrying the curriculum around as much. And when you're doing your planning, it's just a lot easier to have a good resource to look towards. And then also, if you've got things coming up, they're right there. They're right there on your calendar, and you see them. So that's those things. Let's see, what was the other thing I was going to mention? There was something else, and it's gone. Oh well. When we go to the more detailed planning, I'm still going to have you write what's here, because especially if you're wanting to alter what you've got in your written curriculum in any way, you want to make sure that you make notes for yourself. So that was the other thing I was going to say. That was the thought. If you're not using our curriculum, if you're using somebody else's that maybe isn't as planned out, or you're piecing together your own, my caution, if you're piecing together your own, and I know I sound like a broken record, and people have said to me, you just say that because you want me to buy your curriculum. That's like seriously 1% of why I would say this out of the 100%. The reason why I say you should stick with something that's planned out when you're first starting is because I want you to understand what you're doing, to understand each piece. And unless you've had and you've been planning for the last year, and you've been studying and reading Steiner and really understanding what the children need for that year, then I would go with something that's laid out. Now, what a lot of moms say to me is, I buy yours every year, and I really like it because I may not stick with it totally, but it is definitely a jumping off point, and I can see how detailed your lessons need to be, and I can see what I should be teaching, and I can see just how that flow should be, and that's what I needed. I needed to see how detailed it should be, and so we totally give you that. But then we also give you that freedom to then jump off and go, add some things in if you want. Just be really careful in the beginning, again, on adding things in. And I had a mom say to me that the graphic that we have in the front, where is it? The one that says collector or doer, that it stung. I promise it's not to make you upset. It's because I want you to think to yourself, okay, so if you're a collector and you do it, great. I know that there are some moms out there that they collect and they can pull seamlessly from different things. And yikes! Sorry, my phone was ringing. They can pull seamlessly from different things, and kudos to those moms. Most moms are not in that place. Most, and I dare I say I've not met many that can do it, because it is a huge job. Because then you're not reading one curriculum. You better be reading front to back, 4 if you have 4, like every ounce of what they've written, because those other writers wrote it for a reason. You need to make sure that you're understanding what they're saying and why they wrote it. Otherwise, it's jack of all trades, master of none. And my aim is to make you a master at this. I want you to be a master at all of these planning things. I want you to be able to pick up something and go, I know exactly where this is in the curriculum, where it should be, where it belongs. And that comes from years of study. That is not to make you feel bad about where you're at, because everybody starts somewhere. I was in your place at one point in time. I am still learning all the time. I am teaching. I'm finishing up 10th grade for the 3rd time. And I know that by the time I'm doing it with Sam for the 4th time, I will have learned a ton more things. And it's really because it's the destination, not the speed that you get there. So take the time that you need. Slow down. Actually read the pieces. 90% of the questions that I get in my email or on my PM already answered someplace in the curriculum, but you didn't slow down to read. And I don't mind helping. I don't mind helping at all. But I want you to feel like, hey, I have mastery over this. The only way to do that is to slow down. And you might say, I don't have the time. Make the time. Make the time, Mom. It is better to start later and to have all your ducks in a row than it is to do a halfway job. And nobody wants that. Everybody sort of wants everything to be like perfect for their kids. So, see you later, Rebecca. She says she's going hiking. That sounds like a fun day. We are about done here. Your assignment for next week is to finish this up. It is also to finish your mission statement if you haven't finished your mission statement. We've been working on ours. I thought mine would be done today. I still got my old one behind me, but we have some tweaking we want to do to ours still. So I'm hoping that we'll have, I had thoughts down, and my teenager was like, I think I need to think about this more. I was like, seriously? How many days do you need? So we're actually going to finish ours up, but it should be a family affair. It should be something that I'm hoping you're including Dad in, and that you're asking all the kids. And, like I said, when we wrote our first one, it was more about behaviors that we were trying to squash, and because there were some things that were happening just because of our situation at the time that needed to be changed, and things that people were struggling with. Well, now when we sat down to look at it, we don't have those struggles or those challenges as much. And so it's more about, we definitely want to be building each other up. And so, Lou says hers is done and you did it together. I would love to see it. I would love it if you would share it here on the group if you feel comfortable. If not, I totally get it. So anyways, I want you to work on that this week. Work on finishing this piece up so that you are ready to jump off from this spot. Even if you're not 100% sure that you're going to be following through, write those parts in pencil. That's probably what I'm going to do for Eleanor for a while, until I'm 100% sure where I want her to be. A lot of it is going to be dependent on how much she and I get done this summer. So, I'll have Sam all laid out, and that'll be easy, and Soraya fairly laid out. That'll be easy. But I will probably be penciling in Eleanor. So, I'd love to see your pages. Please tag me on Facebook or on Instagram if you're posting them, because I'd love to see what they look like. And if you haven't been, then please do. I'd love to see them. And I know other people would love to see them too. I think that people go, what? You go through this much depth? Yep, we do. And that's what makes this a peaceful situation. That's what really makes you be able to do the things that you want to do. And that's what I want for you. I want you to feel like you're excited about being at home with your kids. I want you to feel like you love what you do, and you're looking forward to the planning part instead of dreading it. So anyways, I will catch you guys next week at 10, same time, same place. I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye now.